Hello, everybody. My name is Ron, and welcome to Why This Film, a podcast where we explore the artistry, cultural impact, and legacy of movies in the Criterion Collection. Each episode, I sit down with experts and cinephiles to ask, why was this film chosen for the collection, and why does it still matter today? In this episode, we're heading to 1980s Los Angeles with Repo Man, Spy Number 654, the 1984 cult classic directed by Alex Cox. Part punk fable, part sci-fi comedy, and part political satire, Repo Man captures a moment of American disillusion with humor and raw energy. The film follows a burned out repo man and the aimless punk he takes under his wing as they navigate a city defined by empty promises and an absence of morality. At the center of it all is a Chevy Malibu, an object of pursuit that's equal parts MacGuffin and metaphor. What begins as a street level odd job spirals into something stranger and more unsettling, reflecting the anxieties of the Reagan era through deadpan absurdity and punk defiance. My guest today is James Chestnut, an assistant director working across film and television. He worked on Euphoria as a second assistant director from 2019 through 2022, and later as a first AD during the show's most recent production, which wrapped in 2025 ahead of its 2026 release. His work spans both prestige television and large-scale studio productions. James was a first AD on The Idol in 2023, a second AD on Insecure from 2018 to 2020, and worked as a second AD on The Tragedy of Macbeth in 2020. Earlier in his career, he got his start as a production assistant on projects like True Blood, Unstoppable, and Hail Caesar, experience that's placed him on sets where logistics, creative vision, and day-to-day problem-solving collide. That perspective makes Repo Man an especially fitting film for our conversation. And with that, here's my conversation with James Chestnut. James, I got to catch my breath, listen out all of those incredible credentials. Thanks for agreeing to come on and chat Repo Man.
It's my honor and my pleasure.
Assistant director, I'm sure you get this question a lot. Can you explain a little about what your day-to-day responsibilities would look like?
Yeah, kind of my canned response for what does an assistant director do is I liken us to a train conductor keeping the train on the tracks. We're pulling so many different elements in and trying to coordinate everything at once, and our assistant director job is to facilitate that coordination. So a first assistant director, we're the ones that are on set calling rolls and cuts and just helping facilitate everything on set, every scene, every shot from moment to moment. Your second assistant director is going to be the one that's more focused on the next day. They're the ones that build the call sheet, which is your document with all the information for what's happening that day, all the scenes, all the elements needed for said scenes. So your second assistant director is building that and keeping their eye on the future. And then your second assistant director is on set working with the first AD to help facilitate what's happening in the moment, dealing more with the extras. If you're shooting something with a bunch of background with extras, they're going to be placing and setting the extras, and also just coordinating with the production assistants to make sure that our whole department is in line. So making sure that the production assistants are in lockups. A lockup would be like if we're shooting in a grocery store, say like they do in Repo Man, making sure that people aren't wandering into the frame at any point, or making sure that people are quiet while we're rolling.
You probably have to be pretty adaptable in the way that you approach each job that you have.
Yeah, 100%. Some directors are going to be more hands-on with the extras, for example. Some are going to just be like, go ahead and set something, whatever, and we'll tweak it if we need to. But yeah, adaptability is the name of the game.
What kind of director does Alex Cox seem like to you?
He seems very collaborative and open to in the moment feedback and in the moment changes. Sometimes you'll work with folks who are very steadfast and, what's on the page and what's in their mind is what has to happen to a T, when the reality of filmmaking is there's so many elements and so many variables that you have to be adaptable. And Alex Cox seems like somebody who, and especially with this film where it seems pretty ragtag, the making of it, you have to be adaptable. You have to be able to roll with the punches. I think one of the examples he gives is Harry Dean Stanton changing the repo code. It was supposed to be a monologue that was shot over several scenes. It was Harry's idea to condense it into a much more concise delivery. And some directors would take that and discard it, but Alex, he credits Harry with that and says that the film is better because of it.
When we were talking about what film we were going to discuss, this was one that seemed to be pretty high up on your list.
Mm-hmm.
So is this a top LA movie for you? Is this one of those things that it holds a special place for you because this is where you live and work?
Yeah, I guess a little bit more so. I think I'm drawn to this film just because of how weird and unique it is. I think LA is a character in this movie, and lends it a grittiness and just oddness that it might not have in another setting. It is a great LA movie, and yeah, it probably would be my favorite LA movie. I don't. The LA Times just came out with a list of the top 101 LA movies, which I didn't have a chance. I couldn't find. I mean, I could find it, but I didn't want to sign up for the LA Times subscription,
I
so I
saw the
could.
exact same thing. I saw the exact same thing and thought, oh man, I guess I'll never know where Repo Man
I
is on the
know, and
list.
I looked high and low. I couldn't find it anywhere. I think Chinatown was the number one movie on its list. I'm sure La La Land was in there somewhere. I think Big Lebowski was in there. So yeah, I would have to say Big Lebowski is another top LA movie for me.
Repo Man was 76.
It was 76.
76. I think maybe we need to reach out to the LA Times. And you're right, Chinatown number one, Mulholland
Yeah,
Drive, Sunset
Mulholland Drive.
Boulevard, Clueless, and Blade Runner round out your top five. And all the way down there is lowly little Repo Man at
You
76.
know, yeah, it's such a great snapshot of LA at that time. And I'm from Pennsylvania. I moved out to Los Angeles in 2010. I wasn't even born when this movie was made and came out, so I have very limited perspective of what LA was like at that time. But based on everything that I've seen and experienced, it seems like a pretty accurate snapshot of at least the places that they were shooting. It has such a texture and character to it. I am kind of surprised it's not higher up on that list, honestly.
What is the punk rock scene like these days? Does it still exist? Are you part of the underground punk scene out there in LA? Is that what you're doing in secret when you're supposed to be working? You're heading to the
Ron,
Circle Jerks are playing?
Ron, as you know, I have two kids under 5, so those are the only punks that I know.
You're saying that you're not playing Iggy Pop, you're playing Miss Rachel instead.
We're equal opportunities. There's a lot of Miss Rachel, but Josie, my older daughter, really enjoys the band Turnstile, which is kind of a post punk hardcore kind of band. The LA punk scene, I mean, I don't think any punk scene is the same as it was in the 80s. You know, the DC punk scene, the London punk scene, any of them. But it was a big enough scene that they based part of their movie off of it and use it as inspiration for this movie. So it's very tangible in this movie, and having those players, you know, the Circle Jerks as the lounge act, and that first scene where they're all moshing in the random warehouse
Or
like
parking lot or whatever it
parking
is, yeah.
lot is just like, it's such a vibe.
Iggy Pop recorded the title song. The studio was not too keen on this film, but the soundtrack took off to a point that the studio had to come back and say, "Hey, we need to get this movie out."
Yeah, it sounds like they had released it. It was in theaters for a week before they pulled it, and then once the soundtrack started, like any studio, they're chasing the money. Once the soundtrack started taking off, then they put it back into theaters, and that's when it kind of started to snowball into its cult classic status.
We might be begging for a movie to be in a theater for a week here soon. Who knows where we go with that?
Oh yeah,
Someone said this movie is punk rock meets science fiction in Ronald Reagan's house. And when I heard that, I wrote that down immediately because that pretty much sums it up. End of podcast. We can just hang up now, I guess, at this point.
that's it. We've explained the movie.
Harry Dean Stanton has a pretty long supplement as part of this Criterion release, and I sent it to you
Yeah.
last week and said that I will buy you your next dinner if you can get through it in one sitting, because he's raving about these ideas of nihilism and then soon after upset that he's being labeled as such.
Yeah, I watched that last night. I watched the whole thing. I sat through the whole thing.
All
So
right,
you want me
next
down?
dinner's on me.
I mean, what I gathered from that is he's clearly up there in age and dealing with some form of dementia. Um, because yeah, he's ranting and raving, and yeah, he's very nihilistic in the interview, but also kind of like referencing the lattice of coincidence in an indirect
Yeah,
way.
I thought the same thing. I thought when he was talking, I thought he's just become the character of Miller.
Yeah, but in a much more nihilistic way. You know, just I think Miller's kind of in awe of the lattice of coincidence. Yeah, Harry Dean. I love the part where they're playing "Row, Row, Row Your Boat" and singing in harmony.
And he went from playing Travis in Paris, Texas. And if you're familiar with Paris, Texas, he doesn't speak for about an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And if he does speak, it might be just a few words. He's
Mm-hmm.
very subdued in that role. And then we get Bud and Repo Man where he doesn't shut up. Anytime he's
Mm-hmm.
on screen, he's just going and going and going. I imagine, I don't know. I'm not in that world. I just feel like it'd be so hard to get in that headspace and to make that switch in a short period of time. Because some of these actors, they get into this, like, not method, but it's hard to change the way that you are approaching a character when they're that polar opposite.
For him to go from that to Paris, Texas, that's just more a testament to acting and actors and what they and he was late 50s when he shot these movies and a career character actor. So I think for him it probably was just what it was. And if you listen to his interview, it was always supposed to be like that. It just it just was
You
what
were
it was.
always supposed to be in Pennsylvania and then go to LA and find yourself having a successful career in LA. That's what you were supposed to do. It was always that
I
way.
had no choice in the matter.
That's right. That's right. You have no free will. Who knows? Tomorrow's already figured out for you.
I'm just a dandelion seed in the breeze.
Wait, is that something from you or something he said? That's you. Really nice. So the map in the title credits gave me nightmares. I mean, I was just in LA a month and a half ago, and I
Mhm.
got christened with the rental car in LA driving. That map, is that telling us where we are, or is that just kind of a
I think that
random?
map was I think that map was like a representation of whatever the government agency that was tracking Jay Parnell. I think that was kind of like where he was supposed to be because that was the map was kind of like out like the outskirts of the outskirts of LA. I think there was Albuquerque on there even. I think he came from I think they're implying that he came from Roswell, New Mexico and drove all the way to LA. So I think some of the pieces of the map was New Mexico, pieces of it was through Arizona, pieces of it was right outside of LA but yeah, I mean
It's
the
disorienting. It's a little
yeah,
disorienting.
it's
Just like when you're
disorienting.
driving, or just like when you're driving around in that, that area, it can be a little disorienting.
It can be a little disorienting and a little claustrophobic.
So the previous 5 episodes of this podcast, it hasn't been that difficult to segment the film that we're discussing because it seems like we have a set piece and then a follow-up scene, or a scene and then a set piece, and then we can discuss it from there. I had a hell of a time trying to figure out how to break this movie into pieces. I'm hoping you can help. I'm hoping we can workshop it and figure some of these things out. I just had such a hard time because it just seems like it's so random and things overlap and then they kind of come together at the end with an ending that is a little ambiguous. I don't know how many times you've seen this. Does it get any clearer for you as you have watched it?
I didn't watch this movie for the first time until 2022. I bought the Criterion on a flash sale because the cover looked cool and I've heard of the movie before. And even then, I don't think I watched it until like a year after I got it. And when I watched it, I was immediately drawn to it. I immediately loved it. But I hadn't watched it again until we started talking and decided that this would be the film that we were going to discuss. So I watched it again for the first time probably 2 weeks ago and remember nearly nothing about it
No.
from my first viewing, which is crazy because I remember loving the movie at the time when I
There's
first
something
watched it.
about it, right? There's something about it that I just can't quite put my finger on.
You
That's
can't put your finger on it. It's so profoundly weird and so random, but the I'm a sci-fi fan, so I'm a sucker for anything sci-fi. And I was a philosophy minor in college, so anything philosophic, like yes, like feed me, keep going. So there's something very weird and punk and philosophic and random, but hypnotic about this movie. And the other thing is it's short. It's a 90-minute movie. It doesn't overstay its welcome, which I really appreciate in this day and age. It's a really hard movie to put your thumb on. It defies any kind of trying to box it into any kind of genre, and it doesn't have a traditional narrative flow really. It's kind of just the vibe of a movie, and I love the vibe.
yeah, I think I labeled it punk fable, sci-fi comedy, political satire, and I don't know how
Yeah,
you roll all that into a 90-minute. And it's funny, it seems like everything's all random, but if you talk to the character of Miller, he would tell you that it all
it's all
overlaps and it
connected.
all means something. It's all connected in some way.
It's all connected. Yep.
So let's dive into that opening scene, and I'm going to really rely on your filmmaking knowledge with a lot of the direction I'd like to
Sure.
go. So, police officer pulls over a man driving a Chevy Malibu. He's driving quite erratically, as we'll see. Fox Harris is the actor who plays J. Frank Parnell. I found out through the audio commentary is that Fox Harris couldn't drive. The first time I watched it, there's a rear shot
Yeah.
of
It's
the
clearly not him.
vehicle. It's clearly not him, and it bothered me. But it's we got some sort of explanation that he couldn't drive.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Cox said that they shot these scenes weeks apart, where there's a wide shot of the cop walking up to the vehicle, and then there's, I think, the close-up shots to the back of the vehicle.
Mhm.
What are challenges of matching a scene like this when you're doing reshoots? Because when the cop is up next to the vehicle, it's clearly Fox Harris, but those rear
Mhm.
shots, Fox Harris is nowhere to be found.
The reason for a lot of these reshoots was because their DP, their director of photography, Robbie Mueller, didn't like to shoot inserts and was very adamant about what the frames would be, what the shots would be, and didn't want to shoot additional coverage or inserts, which then when you're in post and editorial and cutting it together and you find that a scene doesn't flow because you're missing a little piece here or there, or you don't have anything to cut away to, and the scene just feels too bulky or too kind of overstays its welcome. But yeah, I mean, the challenges of doing a reshoot like that is continuity. You're weeks, months later from your initial production, and you're trying to match hair, you're trying to match the set, and all kinds of things could have changed. I think what was it, the Superman movie with Henry Cavill? They did reshoots for that while he was shooting Mission Impossible, and Superman doesn't have a mustache. His character in Mission Impossible does have a mustache, and Mission Impossible wouldn't give him permission to shave the mustache. So if you see some of these shots in that Superman movie and his lip looks a little weird, it's because they had to digitize out the mustache. So it's those kind of things where things change and it's just out of your control, and you have to do your best as filmmakers uh, to cover it up and use all your film magic to suspend the disbelief. So yeah, I mean those shots again. I think it was Alex Cox in the car, or it was probably their stunt coordinator.
No matter the amount of planning, something could always come up or happen. Like you're saying, like you're shooting something, you're not going straight to the editing room to
So I
find that
mean,
something
sometimes
doesn't
sometimes
work.
you are. Some are going straight to the editing room, and you know pretty quickly what you need. And that's the best case scenario where you're shooting something and cutting together a scene in very quick succession, and that way, hopefully, you're still in that location or that set is
Right.
still
Yeah.
built, so you have the chance to easily get those pickup shots. In the case of this movie, it seems like it was months later before they were doing reshoots.
Right. Well, the police officer, of course, walks to the back, opens the trunk. We get a blinding light, a little flash. We see his skeleton,
Hmm.
and I guess he disintegrates. The only thing left are his smoking boots on the roadside,
Hmm.
and then Frank Parnell drives
Yeah,
away, or
he
he me
meanders away.
right.
I
He's
love it.
using all the road. He's exploring the
Yeah.
space on all the road. So this doesn't seem very high budget.
Mhm.
There's a little bit of a visual effect there that happens after the fact, but we're told right away that we're in sci-fi territory.
Mhm.
So from a production standpoint, what does a scene like this require to sell to the audience something that's pretty extreme without these big budget effects that we might be used to from those higher, I hate to say higher end because big budget doesn't mean higher end.
Yeah, it just means more money to throw at everything. Yeah, I mean, you're in sci-fi territory immediately without having the scrolling ticker of a Star Wars movie to tell you that you're in a galaxy far, far away a
Right.
long time ago. Yeah, I mean, I think with this kind of scene, you're wanting, and with any movie really, you want to hook your audience immediately. I didn't remember much from my first viewing, and when I rewatched it, I was like, "Oh, right, this is where we are," and I'm hooked all over again. It's such a simple conceit. Cop stops the guy on the side of the road. Guy says, "Don't look in the trunk." Cop looks in the trunk anyway and disintegrates. Say less.
Do you think Tarantino has seen this movie? That's the first thing I thought of when I saw something open and a bright light shine out.
Yes, yes,
I have my Pulp
guaranteed.
Fiction poster right next to me. So we have our punk scene. We have that
Here,
mosh
wait, can
pit
we
you were
can we
talking about.
talk a little bit about those effects?
Yeah, yeah, please do. Yeah, tell me more.
So I mean, again, you touched on it how it's not big budget effects. To get that glowing effect from in the trunk, they painted it super white inside and just blasted it with the highest intensity lights that you could. So all that is practical effects. It's a white trunk with a lot of wattage inside of it. And they open the trunk and disintegrate. That's just, I think that I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever read anything about that one, but from what I understand, it kind of looks like they just painted over the film stock. Uh, with the skeleton. So it's
It's
just a couple,
amazing.
frame by frame, they just superimpose a skeleton on top of the body and then just cut into a match cut of nobody at the car and just a pair of smoking boots.
I think it looks pretty good. Like
I think it looks
we
fantastic.
get the idea of what happened. You don't need anything really explained to you.
You really don't,
You
no, and
get
it's
it.
like, drop some dry ice inside those boots right before you roll, and it looks like it's just I love old time effects and how creative you had to be before the advent of computer technology and CGI, and it's just so fun and really, like, leans into the punk aesthetic of this movie.
You get the point across to the audience that we don't need a lot of explanation because of the creativity that's
Mhm.
coming across. And Repo Man does quite a lot of that. There's
Yeah.
quite a lot of visual things here. Yeah, we're going to get to the supermarket here next.
Mhm.
There's a lot of visual things here that are telling us without telling us. Maybe that could be the name of the next podcast. Telling us without telling us. That's James Chestnut. So Otto gets fired from his job in fabulous fashion. Kevin is a character that makes me laugh when I watch this.
Yes.
His
Love
punk
Kevin.
buddy. Yeah, Kevin's great. Because I thought when I first watched it, Kevin was going to be this person that you can walk all over. He does kind
Mhm.
of get his ass kicked here in the beginning, thrown into the stack of cans. But Kevin is a very, I don't know how to describe him. He's almost like charismatic in his own way. Like when he's going up to the Rodriguez brothers later at the gas station, he kind of gives the, hey, I got you guys, the little
Yeah.
A-OK.
Yeah. I think Kevin's kind of the characterization of, like, settling in this punk
Mm,
environment, he's, like, talking about the upward mobility of being a fry cook in one of the
yeah,
later scenes.
there's room to move as a fry cook, he said.
Yeah. But also Kevin, he I think they wanted to cast Chris Penn in the part of
Yes,
Kevin, and there was
yes.
some kind of beef with somebody on set, and they had to pivot, and last minute went with this. I can't remember the actor's name, but he was one of the PAs. He was driving Fox Harris. He was his driver because obviously he couldn't drive. But it's like, they pulled the PA in to play this role, and he killed it.
There's so many casting what ifs in a lot of films that I just can't imagine those actors. Like Chris Penn, I feel like he would overpower. Kevin's character is supposed to be not as loud on
Yeah,
screen.
he's supposed to be, and this isn't a term that I use on the reg, but he's supposed to be kind of more beta.
Yeah, Xander Schloss
Um,
is the actor's name, Xander
yeah,
Schloss.
yeah. I think Chris Penn would have made it a little too goofy, which is weird to say because Kevin is very goofy already.
Right. Well, Otto gets fired, and I'm assuming Kevin also loses his job with what's the guy's name who runs the market? Mr. Humphreys. I think it's
Mr.
Mr.
Humphries, yeah.
Humphreys. Yeah. And what is the significance with these generically labeled goods? Because the supermarket is full of them. And then throughout the film, we see alcohol, we see the beer, alcohol meaning like hard liquor when they go to the gas
Hmm.
station or convenience store, whatever it is, food.
Hmm.
What is the significance of that?
Well, there's a couple different ways, a couple different facets here. They were looking for product placement and they couldn't find any, but the supermarket chain out here, Ralph's, actually did help them out and provided them with a lot of these generic labeled things. These were actual products that they had in, like, in their supermarket stockroom. So I think somewhere in the commentary they mentioned that the only ones that they had to make were the beer, the food, and the butyl nitrate, which is like the stuff that they end up like sniffing
Yeah.
off of
Yeah.
the
It drops it on
table.
the table.
Yeah, but other than that, it kind of sounds like Ralph's the grocery store like hooked them up with all this stuff. Now,
Shout
from
out
a
to
story
Ralph's.
standpoint, it's wild. From a story standpoint, it kind of confuses me because this is a movie that is commenting on consumer culture, but to have all of your products so homogenous, it seems kind of counter to the brand competition, Coke versus Pepsi. And that's something I didn't really start to think about until for a couple viewings, and it doesn't take me out of the movie at all or make me think any different of consumer culture. I think that it was just a practical thing. Like this is what we can have, and this is what we're going to use, and we're still going to make commentary on consumer culture, but this is what we have as our set dressing
Yeah, I
and our
guess it doesn't
props.
matter. I guess it doesn't matter what you're buying because the money is going out of your pocket
Hmm.
anyway. So
Right.
which company it's going to, it doesn't necessarily matter.
Right.
So the supermarket is a location, I think.
Yes.
And then do you prefer, I know you've obviously worked on both. Do you prefer being on location or do you like getting up and going to a studio and being on a set?
You like to mix it up. You end up on shows where it's like you spend the episode is 5 days and you spend 4 days on the stage and then go out for 1 day on location. You have other movies where you're entirely on location. When you're all in the studio, it's kind of a mental game where you'll go on stage and it's dark when you get on stage in the morning, and then you open up the elephant door when you rap and it's dark again at night. But then, you have all of your infrastructure right there for you at the stage. When you're on location, you're out in the wild and you have to deal with all the other things, all the other factors out in the wild. But I don't have a preference. I like to be on things where we mix it up and do both, because you'll be out on location for like 2 weeks and then you get back to the stage and it's like
Yeah.
you could breathe a little easier.
Yeah, the stage or the stage and being in a studio, I imagine you can control so much. You can control the
Yes, it's
lighting, you can control temperature to a
yeah.
point, I'm sure.
Yeah, much easier to control that. And the other thing is, let's say you're shooting in like a small apartment. If you're doing that on location, your apartment is what it is, and you have to figure out how to light it in that apartment, how to get your camera angles in that apartment. But when you're shooting that apartment, when you build it on stage, if you want to get a certain angle, you pull the wall, and then you can get to that angle. There's no roof, so you can light it however you want.
It seemed like the production of Repo Man presented its own challenges. I caught myself on one of the watches thinking, I'm not bored with seeing the different ways that they're shooting vehicles
Yeah.
because there's so many different ways. They have a split diopter shot, which I want to ask you about later. There's a hood mount where I'm not sure if the car's being towed or not. I think
Hmm.
that who knows in '85 with Cox at the helm if they were towing the car, they were just letting
Hmm.
Cy Richardson drive the car.
Hmm.
There's tracking shots. There's a stationary camera, and the car pulls directly up to it. There's car
Hmm.
chases. There's long single. Like I kind of lost track. I just stopped listing them of all the different ways that they approached filming vehicles. Are car setups significantly tougher to coordinate than others because you actually have moving vehicles?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a great question. Every scenario presents its own difficulties and set of challenges. With car work, I mean, you're looking at like all the things you said. If you're shooting in the car and using a hood mount, that's a piece of grip equipment that's going to either impede the view of the driver if they're free driving it, or is going to be sticking out on the side if you're looking through a window. So you have to consider the spatial awareness of that. If you're driving, hopefully you have a street that you can control, but you're also going to have police escort to help you
Mm.
navigate the streets and make sure that traffic is cooperating with you. There's a lot of shots where it was, yeah, hood mounts. There's going to be a lot of what is called a process trailer and an insert car, and that's when the car is on a trailer and you do have a car towing it. And then the car's on a big trailer that has room for cameras on the side. You can mount cameras in the front. A lot of times you'll know it's a process trailer. You'll see people like doing this with the steering wheel and the car's just going stick straight. And then they did a lot of other shots where it was car to car. There's something that we use called the pursuit vehicle, which is a supercharged SUV with a camera mounted on the top. It's a camera on a crane mounted on the top, and then the camera is going to be on a remote head. You have your camera in this head, and it moves X, Y, and Z axis, and the camera operator is controlling it at what's called the wheels. It's like a video game. They got it, and they can move the camera around like that. That's what we use now. I don't think they had that exact technology in 1983 when they were shooting this, but I know they did talk about doing car to car work. So whether that's off of the back of another car or off of the back of a stake bed or a truck or a pass van, whatever. It looked like there were some dolly shots with tracking with the cars. The shots where you're talking about where there's a fixed camera position and the car will pull up into it. A lot of times when we do that, you'll set up your shot with the car in its final position and you mark the wheels, or we'll set up a sandbag where we need the car to stop. So that way the driver, when they're driving, they just hit the sandbag and they know to stop.
I imagine Fox Harris would hit the sandbag or not.
I
He hit the
think
gas
from what I
station, I
understand,
think, when he was
he hit
driving.
the gas station too.
I imagine that's probably something that's on the filmmakers' minds that, damn, we have a lot of shots with vehicles. We need to
Mhm.
mix up the way that we shoot this. Is that something that you think is on their mind so it doesn't get stale?
It depends on how much car work you have, and I think in this movie, yeah, definitely you are gonna want to mix it up. It's also very time consuming
Mm.
to change your setup and to change your angle. Like you're taking your entire rig off of one side and rigging it onto another side. Now, hopefully, you have multiple of the same car. That way, you can get a jump on whatever your next setup is. You're shooting with one car in one setup, And then meanwhile, everybody's back with the other car, rigging it for the next setup, and you can just swap the car. I think their Chevy Malibu got stolen. It sounded like they only had one to work with pretty
I
much the
feel like,
entire
of course
film.
it did. Of
Of
course it
course,
did. It's
yeah,
like,
of course it did.
so when you're
Why
putting
wouldn't it?
together, so when in your role, when you're putting together a schedule, do you see car work and think, oh shit, just because of all,
Mm,
just because of all the different moving parts you have to be aware of, or are you to the point now where it's just like, hey, it's just the job?
it's just a job. I worked on. I'm not gonna say what the show was, but we worked on one show where our very first week of shooting was an Uber driver and doing a lot of Uber driving at nighttime.
Hmm.
And we finished our week of shooting, and we're in the pass van with the director and the showrunner at 4 in the morning on what we call a Friday. That's a Friday that goes into Saturday. And they were talking to each other, and we're just like, damn, like we shouldn't have wrote all that car work.
Some regret. Yeah, they
Yeah.
have no choice when you have a movie called Repo Man. I guess
Yeah,
you're going to have a lot of
exactly.
car work. I thought they were pretty creative with the way that they didn't allow it to get stale. They kept it fresh with all the different
Definitely.
ways that you could film the cars.
And there's a lot of different cars too, which helps with that.
Yeah, yeah. Otto gets to drive a car here because his girlfriend is sleeping with Dick Rude's character Duke. He gets up
Hmm.
to get her something to drink. Emilio Estevez. This is the second Emilio Estevez movie
Mm,
in this podcast, so I'm gonna have to reach out
hmm.
to him. He spends a lot of time in his underwear in this movie,
Yeah, he does.
and in Breakfast Club, he's made fun of for wearing tights, being a wrestler. So maybe there's a connection there. I don't know. So he's kind of walking aimlessly through a neighborhood in LA, and Harry Dean Stanton's character Bud pulls up to him and kind of tricks him into helping him repo this car. And the old man
Hmm.
who's hanging onto the car as, and by the way, Emilio Estevez's character, his character's name, like, is that a little too on the nose? His name's freaking Otto in a movie about
Oh, and
cars and being a repo
then
man.
the what's his name? The guy at the repo house goes, Auto parts.
Yeah, it's like, good one.
Cool.
Yeah, you really got him. Yeah. As soon as I heard his name, I thought, oh no, is this going to be one of those movies? Oh no. I mean, he's kind of pulled into that, not kind of, he is pulled into that repo job
Hmm.
and doesn't like the idea of being a repo man. They toss him a beer, he opens it up, he pours it all over the ground.
Well, he loved it. He loved it until they said explicitly, like, no, you're a repo man.
Yeah, he didn't mind getting the cash.
Hmm.
He didn't mind the excitement of throwing that old man who got hurt in real life holding onto the car as he
Yeah.
drove away.
But like the immediate punk counterculture reaction for him was like, fuck you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And this entire stretch of the film, it's serving as a major character introduction. So we get this big sequence so we can get introduced to all the characters.
Hmm.
Well, not all the characters. The Rodriguez brothers are coming soon. I like Emilio's earring. It's this big cross. And as he's driving, he sees the Mother Mary figurine and grabs it and tosses it
And
out the
rips it and
window.
tosses it out. I know.
Like what the hell?
It's just such a great punk moment.
Otto goes home and he asks his parents for money, and they're sitting staring straight ahead at this televangelist
Yeah.
who's asking for their money. Oh, he said something about like, I want your money because God wants your money or
Yeah,
something like that.
he said, I want your money because God wants your money. He also says something about like he's decrying liberal humanism as an evil, basically. I mean, that I think that's the part that's most on the nose for today's cultural commentary. I do love that scene because his parents are like they're brainwashed robots at that point, but they're like former hippies too, which I have experienced, and some of my own friends have former hippie parents who are now uber conservative. What a crazy journey to go from flowers and love to Reagan and televangelists.
Yeah. Do you want me to give you
Uh,
the floor to talk about Reagan? Do you want to piss anybody off today or no? No.
Pass. I mean, fuck Ronald Reagan.
So
Fuck him.
how would you describe Otto's life? Criterion does such a great job with a lot of the supplements and the audio commentary. I feel like I'm in film school and I always catch something that I write down. And Cox said Otto is a blank page. He never really takes any action, but he's endlessly influenced by events. Without changing his appearance, he goes from being a punk rocker to a businessman. He could have ended up being a revolutionary or a time machine pilot or anything because he has no personality. And
Hmm.
everybody laughed. But no, that's a
It's
great
accurate.
explanation of
Yep.
Otto in his life. He has no job, no prospects, he has no direction. His girlfriend's sleeping with somebody else. He doesn't
Yeah.
really
I
have a
had
lot
a
going for him at this point.
no. And it's an interesting It's an interesting conceit and an interesting way to have your protagonist. I had a film school professor back at Penn State, and I was in a screenwriting class, and she was very adamant that any stories where your protagonist doesn't make their own choices is like bad. And the example that she gave, and I think the one that kind of resonates with this movie the most, is Forrest Gump, where
Oh,
he's another blank page. He goes from being a football player to a war hero to a ping pong player. He could have been anything. So in a way, Otto is Forrest Gump.
that's really interesting because the circumstances in both of those led to what made those characters what they were, I guess.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
it
Otto walking around aimlessly, he just happens across Bud, who happens to need some help,
right place, right
and
time,
it's right
or
place,
wrong
right time.
place, wrong time. However you want to label it.
Or as Harry Dean Stanton would say, it's was meant to happen.
It was always supposed to be that way.
Or as Miller would say, it's all coincidence and it all overlaps, and
There it is.
essentially it was meant to happen. Do you have any sense of where Otto's house is, where Otto is in LA? Because I
Yeah,
feel
I think.
like when I watch a lot of movies that take place in LA, I get some LA landmarks that at least give me a general sense of where I am geographically. I had a really hard time with it watching Repo
Yeah.
Man, though.
Yeah, and they're shooting mostly in, like, downtown and East LA, San Pedro, which is, like, down by Long Beach. I think they were implying that his family's house is, like, in Huntington Beach. When he gets off of the bus there, it just says Edge City, and everybody's getting on to go into the city. And, yeah, like, when you look at the skyline, you don't see any of the this was before a lot of the iconic LA skyline buildings were built.
The skyline looks small. It doesn't
Yeah,
look like a major city when you see the skyline
yeah.
as it's shown in this movie.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of by design. They're in seedier areas of LA. But there's also they show like iconic parts of LA too. The LA River, the car chase with the Rodriguez brothers going through the
Yeah.
LA River under 6th Street Bridge. A couple years before that, Grease shot their car racing scene in that same areas. Terminator 2, the truck barreling down the LA River underneath the bridge there. So yeah, I mean they kind of mix it up with some iconic LA locations, but also like stuff that places that I've never been and I've never shot.
By last resort, Otto, I hate to say becomes a repo man. I wrote he ends up acting as a repo man. I don't know how
Mhm.
you become a repo man. During the repo code, as Bud is kind of taking Otto under his wing and he's giving him the repo code
And
and the
ripping lines of
repo
speed.
and ripping. When I first heard the repo code, I thought, oh, this is going to be like a 4 to 5 step way to be a repo man. And it's just a line. I shall not cause harm to any vehicle nor the personal contents thereof, nor through inaction let that vehicle or the personal contents thereof come to harm. He's giving this monologue about the repo code, and they're doing speed in the car. And then there's another scene thereafter where he has that same level of energy, but it's
Mhm,
not the same location. They could be different days. I'm assuming it's different days if they shot these
mhm.
scenes. Is that something? Is there a way that someone on set supports the actors in ensuring that that cadence of the dialogue and the speech, the energy that's consistent across days of shooting?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be up to the actor mostly, but your director is gonna be the one that is making sure that the performance is in line with their vision. From a crew perspective, we can do everything we can to be consistent and to be efficient, but to provide that set and mind space for the actor and for the director. But ultimately, that's a actor director thing to keep the performance consistent like that over. Like you said, who knows? They could have been weeks apart that those two scenes were shot.
Because he's kind of ranting a little bit. And then we
Hmm.
have the coincidence of them going to the convenience store, and as they leave, Otto and the other two punks are behind the counter. See, this is where I get mixed up because I think I'm at the right point of the movie, but there's so many
Hmm.
different little things thrown in there that wait, did that
Hmm.
happen? Did that happen later? I think I'm at the right spot though.
I love that scene. Harry Dean Stanton, Bud's trying to hurry up the cashier, and he's just like
He's
shaking
being
in his
held at
boots back
gunpoint,
there.
being held at gunpoint, and Bud's
It's just
getting
such a
annoyed.
great like visual. Like they pop up out of the counter. That's just good filmmaking right there.
And then we get down to the LA River. Can you explain what the LA River is?
It, uh, the LA River is a water runway that was constructed. I think there was a major flood in LA in the early 1900s, and there was a ridiculous amount of property damage and citywide destruction. So they built this sluice basically to help with water runoff when it rains because the rest of the city, it just didn't have the infrastructure for that in Southern California. So yeah, it's just this big runway that when it rains turns into a river, but otherwise is just a dry concrete path.
I think my first exposure to that was watching Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Very, very famous scene. And then we have, I don't know, I guess the third most famous scene in my mind now because it's the three that I can think of because you said Grease and we said
Hmm.
Terminator and now we're talking Repo Man. Bud and Otto are just riding around down there and then the Rodriguez
Yeah,
brothers
just
show up.
like I don't know why anybody would ever just be cruising down there. I
The
love it.
Rodriguez brothers show up
Yep.
and there's a car chase where they're up on the embankment
Hmm.
of that area and there's water. They're I don't know, like drifting, I guess, in
Hmm.
the water. How long does something like this take to put together and film?
Well, you're gonna have your prep time, which ideally for something like that, you have several weeks in advance, time to prep it because you're talking about stunt rehearsals, making sure that you have the vehicles. You're gonna want multiples of those vehicles in case anything happens to them. You have to figure out how you're gonna shoot it, so you need time with your director and with your DP to sit down and visualize what the shots are gonna be. And this is a movie where I feel like they were pretty economical about what they shot. It doesn't seem like a lot was left on the cutting room floor where they shot all kinds of angles and coverage. So you want to be really, really prepped and planned from that standpoint. As far as shooting goes, I'm guessing it only took a day. Some car chases, been on movies where we'll shoot car chases over multiple days. But this one, I'm pretty certain was all in one day.
And you're pretty involved in that process
Yeah,
in the jobs that you've had
yeah.
on sets.
Yeah, I mean, you have meetings on meetings about it. You have to coordinate the stunt rehearsals. If your director and DP aren't able to be there for the stunt rehearsals, you have to find a way to either record it or describe it to show them so that they can make tweaks to it so that when you get there on the day, you're not wasting your time figuring out what you're doing. Everything's dialed in and ready to go.
Film the stunt so then later you can come back and film the stunt.
Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, you'll especially with a lot of fight, like, hand-to-hand fights these days, or like a John Wick style, like gun fu kind of fight. Your stunt coordinator and your fight choreographer they're gonna record all that and edit it together way beforehand, while you're prepping or while you're rehearsing. That way the director can get it and then make the tweaks that they want. So that when you're there again, so when you're there on the day, you know what angles you want. You're not wasting film.
So Otto's really getting into it now because we see him change his clothes, which
Mhm.
I love this
Changes
look.
his earring too. He changes his, cross
That's
earring
right.
to a little stud.
I love the look of the white shirt, the white plain undershirt, and the blue jacket. I didn't get a chance to put my hair into a mohawk for this recording, unfortunately.
When we do reshoots, you can.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. We can edit in post, as they say. So Otto repossesses an expensive car, and there's so many random moments. It's unbelievable. The guy who's bitching at these two young kids in the laundromat,
Mm,
it's set up in a way that this is supposed to be a player here. Like this is supposed to be an important player in our movie, but you never see him
mhm.
again. He's nothing to us.
Yeah, yep.
The two kids throw the laundry basket out. Otto picks up Layla and she shares this is where, okay, now we're back in sci-fi. So we went from
Mhm,
open with sci-fi, we've had nothing with sci-fi so far. We have the punk scene, we have the disillusionment of living in LA in the 80s, this American disillusionment, and now Layla is showing Otto pictures of four dead aliens,
yeah,
which
and
are
the movie manages to hold your attention the whole time in between then too.
right. You don't get bored, even though you have
Mhm,
no idea what the hell is going on third, fourth watch. You really don't know what's happening. She shows him pictures of dead aliens, which the picture is condoms filled with water with
mhm.
hula skirts.
Yeah,
That's what the actual picture is.
love it. It's incredible.
Oh, he drops her off at a place called the United Fruitcake Outlet,
Mhm,
UFO.
mhm,
Good Lord. So the movie feels like it's being deliberately disorienting
mhm.
because motivations overlap, scenes are loosely connected, and your job, like your real big boy job, relies on clarity and coordination. So, how does it feel watching this with all of your experience and you're watching something that seems to be so disorienting and lacking clarity?
Well, I for a long time, Especially when I was in, like when I was in film school, I would and when I was first starting out in the industry, I would watch things with the lens of being a filmmaker. Um, I don't really do that anymore. I just enjoy the films for what they are. Um, and with this one, you talk about a lack of clarity or kind of narrative purpose, but our job, my job as an AD, the prop master, the cameraman, anybody who's on that film, it's not really your job to question that. If the director has a vision, if the showrunner has a vision, you just shut up and shoot. I do my best to bring everything together and coordinate everything, and then you just trust that it will all come together in post. Sometimes you're on something and you know it's going to be shit.
That was my next question. Do you feel it? Do you feel when there's something that just something's just not right?
Sometimes you do. You know that it's not going to be good, and a lot of times morale can suffer for that. As a first AD, I try my best to keep morale high and to keep everybody focused. Just keep your head down and do the job. But yeah, I mean, totally, you notice when something's off. But conversely, like a lot of times when you're on something good and you can feel it, and sometimes those good things can kind of be shit shows and can kind of be disorienting. You don't really know how the final product's going to turn out, but you can also feel that there's something magical happening at the same time. And it kind of feels like this movie's in that camp. They weren't sure what the ending was going to be until halfway through filming it. But one of the DVD features said that they had their first daily screening. Back in the day, you would shoot your film and then it would go overnight for processing, and then the next day you would watch it on a screen. And when they had their first daily screening, everybody was like, "Ooh, okay, all right."
It seemed like everybody was enjoying themselves. When you listen to I think there's like 4 or 5 people on the director's commentary, and it seems like everybody's
Mhm,
really one seemed to be enjoying it together, watching it back. There was a
mhm.
lot of laughter, a lot of memories shared.
Well, and it's
So you could
it's
tell that they were
easier
having a good
to
time.
yeah, but it's also easier to appreciate it when your movie is a a classic, is now considered a classic, and you have a
Solid point.
Criterion release. It's
Yeah,
like,
solid point.
but yeah.
So the reveal of the aliens in the trunk that's treated without a lot of emphasis. I missed it on the first watch.
Mm,
Completely missed it because it's essentially one line that
that's kind of a
that the
throwaway.
yeah, the aliens are in the trunk of the Malibu. I
Mhm.
finished my first watch not knowing what was in the trunk of the Malibu. So imagine my disorientation of what the hell is going on. So why not treat this as a bigger reveal? Instead, it's just treated so casually.
Yeah, I think that kind of just has to do with the punk aesthetic, and just the overall punk, like, don't give a fuck kind of vibe. I just also think that's kind of what this movie is. Like, I think Cox said that it was never a movie about this or about that. It is very casual about the alien reveal, but that's maybe because they didn't want to lean too hard into being a sci-fi movie. Also, maybe because they didn't really have an ending at that point.
Yeah,
Because
I
I
guess
think
if it was
initially,
I guess if it's a big reveal, there's going to be big reactions to the reveal. So if you give a
right.
casual line, there's no need for a big reaction that you have to go
Yeah, and
back
I
and
think in some iterations of the script, the ending was supposed to be like, it was a thermonuclear bomb in the trunk, and then the bomb goes off and LA disintegrates in a mushroom cloud,
God,
you
the
know?
neutron bomb.
The neutron bomb, yeah. So I don't think, I think part of the casualness of the alien reveal is just due to the nature of them at the time not having the full story, or not having a proper ending.
Otto learns from Light, played by Cy Richardson, who is awesome. He's so good
Love
in
him.
this. I love those scenes where they're repoing a car together, and
Mhm,
that shot. I think it's a single where they come the whole way around, and Emilio rolls the window down, and now we get the
mhm,
shot through the window,
mhm.
and then the first cut is when he opens the suitcase.
Yeah.
So I love that scene. And then Tracy Walter, who plays Miller, and I'm watching thinking, God, I know him from somewhere. Where the hell do I know Tracy Walter from? He was Bob in Batman in '89.
Yeah, yep.
That's where I know him from. Bob. And he gives this monologue that's about the lattice of coincidence, and we've touched on it already briefly. Is this the monologue that explains the film? I mean, what Miller says ends up being true about a time machine.
I don't know that anything explains this film,
I keep
like,
trying.
truly.
Like everything I have is like, can someone help me understand?
Well, and again, I think that's kind of the point, is that it's punk and it's counterculture and it defies it defies being boxed in. But I do think the lattice of coincidence is really important. It's really important and is part of the big, because what does he say? He says, Miller says people get so hung up on specifics that they miss the whole thing.
That's me. That's me right now.
Right. Exactly.
It's happening to
Um,
me.
but I love the lattice of coincidence. I feel like it kind of aligns with my personal philosophy. I don't. Have you ever seen I Heart Huckabees?
No.
Check out I Heart Huckabees. It's one of my favorite movies, and that movie deals with a very similar philosophical conceit. There's a scene where Dustin Hoffman is explaining to Jason Schwartzman's character basically the lattice of coincidence, and he takes this sheet and he's like, okay, this sheet is everything. It's like, here's you, here's me, here's a plate of shrimp. He doesn't say a plate of shrimp, but basically it's like this sheet is everything. We're all connected in this. Again, this is Miller's line, this cosmic unconsciousness. uh Again, for me personally, that's like such a, like, yeah, yeah, that's what we are, that's what this is. But the way he describes it is so, first of all, it's such a great scene, it's such a great shot. There's only two shots. It's the two shot of them close with the barrel of fire and the smoke, and then cut out wide and to see the bridge. They're standing under the bridge, and it's so beautifully constructed. And when their conversation kind of really lends in, especially to that wider shot where it's just kind of everything. I also do love the plate of shrimp. You see the plate of shrimp sign later when the Rodriguez
Yeah,
brothers stop their car at that restaurant. He goes in the phone booth. There's just plate of shrimp.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I did, and I think what happened was as they were kind of searching for an ending, they kind of realized that Miller's character was a little more that it was a little more important, a little less of a throwaway character. It was one, I can't remember if it was the studio head or the producer, the executive producer, told them that they needed to figure out another ending. And Alex Cox, I think, one of his co-producers came up to him and relayed that news while they were shooting, and Cox was like, I'm too busy to figure that out. You figure that out. So one of the other producers kind of came up with that ending. But I think it really ties the movie together so well in a way that a neutron bomb exploding the city wouldn't have.
Yeah, that would be a bit of a different ending. Maybe give the movie some different meaning, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm on my constant search for meaning, like taking something so literally, like the more you drive, the less intelligent you are. So now I spend every other watch looking for who drives the most, because that in
Mm.
my mind will be the dumbest character. It's like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
and then Otto says that to Miller after he gets in the car at the end, and Miller just kind of shrugs his shoulders.
Well, he's
You know.
yeah, I thought at the end Miller was going to scooch out of the way and let somebody else drive, because
Mm.
Miller can't drive, right? Didn't we learn that?
Yeah, but he's behind the wheel of the time machine.
We have a dollar amount come in now for the Repo Men in LA, 20 grand for a Malibu. So
Hmm.
now the film finally, to my lizard brain, now has focus on this film of we're all going to be looking for the Malibu,
Hmm.
which of course J. Frank Parnell seems to be continually driving around aimlessly. And now we have Harry Stanton in a split diopter shot with Cy Richardson.
Hmm.
What is that? How is that accomplished? For those that are not as privy to this, I guess it's two things in focus, but they are different distances apart.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you have your lens. Each lens has a different focal length. Depends on the lens itself. Depends on what the aperture is, which is the amount of light that you let into the camera. Traditionally, you're shooting with a regular lens, be it a 50, 85, whatever the lens is, and you only have a certain distance of focal length. And a lot of times it can be incredibly incredibly narrow. The longer the lens, the shorter the focal length. And sometimes you want a shot where you can have two elements that are a different distance apart both be in focus. One example would be Jaws. He's sitting on the beach. I think the mayor is talking to him or something, but something's happening in the water beyond him. That's kind of a representation of the Roy Scheider's character having a split focus at that point. He's trying to focus on what the mayor's saying, but also knows that something is amiss at that beach and sees something happening in the background. Another example, Pulp Fiction, when Butch is like hiding behind a wall and you have Marcellus coming down an alley towards him. Again, it's just to have both of these things in focus. A lot of times we use diopters in macro shots when we need to be really close up to something. You get so close with your lens, but it's out of the focal length. So you add a diopter to get it into that focus. And a split diopter is going to be that, but with either a divide down the middle or whatever, however they make it. But there's a divide in the focal length. So when you watch that scene in Repo Man and you see Light sitting there smoking the roach, and then whenever he puts his hand down, you can see his hand is way out of focus, but it's right
Yeah.
underneath where Harry Dean Stanton is in the background. You would want to use that again, like I said, when the tone of the scene calls for it, like in Jaws. This one, I don't know exactly what the motivations were, but it didn't really seem like story wise it needed to be like that from a economic filming standpoint. If you're on a very low budget and you have very little time, that whole scene was two shots. There's one that looks at the back of the cars, then you come to the front with both of them in focus and you have the whole conversation there and then you're out.
Yeah, it
It's
was
two
just yet
shots. It's
another way to shoot two guys talking in cars. In this respect, they're in separate cars. With the camera, it looked like it was behind the steering wheel, and we're shooting like in the gap of the steering wheel. Yeah,
it's a
we could
great
nerd
shot.
out on that stuff.
And the motivation, again, the motivation, who knows what the motive I know what I think the motivation was, but whatever the motivation was, it worked out and it looked great.
It looked awesome. We're all looking for the Malibu, and the Rodriguez brothers are the first to find it. They take it from the gas station.
Hmm.
Yeah, oh, we get Kevin. Yeah, we get Kevin's, I got you guys, vacuum gentleman. He's like, hi, my name's Kevin. It's like the dork. The Rodriguez brothers then stop for soda because the car is so hot. They jump in the car and it's just way too hot in there. So they stop to get something to drink. And while they're
Literally and metaphorically hot.
Yes. Oh, well done. While they're out of the car, the punk trio, led by Duke, they steal the car because they are on a major crime spree. They're robbing convenience stores. They're stealing cars. There's a scene very soon after this where Otto repossesses an old woman's car. When Otto goes to repo this woman's car, when he comes out of the house, the wheels are all clearly on the ground. When he goes to leave, there's a wheel off the ground and he can't drive away. Then there's a shot directly after that where he's trying to get away. After the filmmaker has established there's a wheel off the ground, there's another shot right after that where you can clearly see all four wheels are on the ground. Is continuity something that you are constantly discussing?
No, I mean the continuity is definitely a thing that's in constant discussion.
Because it goes beyond the wheels being on or off the ground. You were talking earlier about hair, makeup. I mean, even
Oh yeah.
sweat has to be
Yeah.
something on your
Oh,
mind.
100%. I mean, my wife is a hairstylist, hair and makeup that you have to you have a whole book of continuity. Once you establish a look in a scene, you got to take photos and notes and just mark out things where A, in case you're coming back for reshoots, but B, because we're shooting things over several weeks, several months, and these two scenes that happen concurrently on the same day in the script aren't happening concurrently in the same day in real life. And so everybody on the set has to think about continuity, but you have your script supervisor who is basically your person who's with the script, making sure that all the words that are in the script are being read if that's what the director wants. Keeping those detailed notes of, okay, so this last take, Otto and Bud were driving and Bud had his arm out the window, and then the next take he didn't have his arm out the window, and that your scriptie is going to be like, the last two takes you had your arm out the window. While continuity is important, you'd rather the vibe of the film and the vibe of the scene be right and be what it needs to be rather than worry about, I don't care if we're driving and his arm's out the window and then his arm's back in the window. If the take is better where his arm's in the window, that's what I'm going to use. But there are glaring ones like that one, which again I think might have been because of the DP not wanting to shoot inserts, because that's an insert. That's an insert shot when it goes to the wheel off of the ground. So I'm guessing that they filmed the scene, he's in the car and then gets his ass kicked, and then when they're cutting it together, they're like, ah, shit, wait a minute.
Hey, maybe no one will notice.
But maybe no one will notice.
Otto's repoing a car and he's with Light, who's besides Kevin, Light's maybe my favorite character in this movie. And there's a repo gunfight where he's
Mm-hmm.
shooting. We find out later he's actually shooting blanks back at the person in the house.
Mm-hmm.
CIA now takes Layla. If I cut together myself reading through the sequence of the film, you might think that like I maybe didn't watch it. Just seems so random. CIA takes Layla. Then there's the infamous John Wayne conversation. And this is followed by sending the Helping Hands group to Mr. Humphrey's house. Alex Cox said someone he knew told him the story about John Wayne, and he actually did install two-way mirrors at John Wayne's house.
A firsthand story from somebody that Alex Cox knew who
That's insane.
claimed to have actually installed the two-way mirrors in John Wayne's house.
Who, if you were an alien, since we're talking about aliens, and someone said, "Show me a picture of what Americans would represent masculinity," a photo of John Wayne may be near the top of top of your list.
Yeah, and John Wayne's another controversial figure. Like you said, he's somebody who represents rough and tumble American ideals, and he's constantly portrayed as a military man and a rough rider, and he never served, was arguably a draft dodger, and they're accusing him of being a homosexual. I mean, it's just an amazing scene.
Well,
It's
yeah,
just an amazing
because he
scene.
just comes out with it. He just says it randomly.
And they all get so offended at first, but then once the guy's like, what's wrong with watching two of your friends have sex with each other? Like
You're right.
it's just amazing.
That sequence of Otto getting beat up, the John Wayne conversation, going to Humphrey's house, which, by the way, when he opens the door, if you look in the background, Kevin's there. What the hell's Kevin doing there? I wonder. And it felt like that was only there to serve to the amusement of the filmmakers. But is there value to sequences like this that don't seem to do anything narratively, but might reinforce the vibe, the attitude that the film's going for?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly what it is. It's the vibe. I, Again, in a movie that's not the most focused on the narrative, those vibes, those kind of scenes do perfect for setting up the vibe of the film. I mean, the the John Wayne scene is hilarious. What's it, light being like, "Fuck John Wayne, tell us his name, you little pussy," and then go straight to them going to attack Mr. Humphreys is just unhinged and wild, but it absolutely adds to the vibe of that film. And like,
That's so funny.
I would really miss that John Wayne scene now if it wasn't in there.
Yeah, I obviously prepping for this, you watched the movie multiple times. And as soon as I started the second watch, I was looking forward to it just because it's so outrageous. You really get a sense that these people are having fun making this movie. They're really leaning into the ideas and the attitudes that the film is going for at this point. A punk is vaporized because Parnell finds the Malibu, and Duke and his crew come out to find Parnell trying to get back into the car. This is after Otto's being questioned by Layla and the CIA, and the
Hmm.
Circle Jerks are performing at the club. So we see them for the first time. Everything's really finally converging on the Malibu.
Yeah, it's like a rat race
And
to get to the
yeah,
Malibu.
yeah. And Otto spots the Malibu later, and we get the same special effects that we did in the beginning of the film with
Hmm.
this punk being vaporized. And this is where we get two other very famous lines. Let's go do those crimes. Let's go get sushi
Hmm.
and not pay. I
Yeah,
started to write down quotes. I told you I had a list of all these quotes. I
yeah,
had to stop. I
yeah.
had to stop. There's too
It's too
many.
many. There's too many. It's
Laugh
endlessly
away,
quotable.
fuckface.
I love when they get back to the repo shop the first time, and Otto's like, "What about your wife?" And Bud's like, "Oh shit!" And he's like, "You know what? She'll take the bus. She's a rock."
She's a rock. Yeah, so silly. There's
It
so
kills
many
me
good
every
ones
time.
that it's just I started to write them down and thought this is just the life of a repo man is always intense. You could
But,
just go on and on and on.
yeah,
There's
it's
you
amazing.
don't get a 5 minute stretch without something that you could write down as being quotable.
100%.
So Parnell takes the Malibu. I don't really know where Parnell is going. If
Yeah,
he's driving from
that's
Roswell, I don't know where he's going. You would think he would have been there by now because he's been driving
yeah,
around LA for
unclear.
days.
And I think because he says he was lobotomized, I think he's just a crazy alien scientist with half a brain who's driving around with some aliens in the trunk who are vaporizing the rest of his brain.
Are we to think so when Parnell dies, are we supposed to think that he died because of complications from this lobotomy, or is it something from in the car that's causing his decay? I wasn't sure where.
My assumption was a little bit of both. Driving for days upon days with aliens radiating who knows what into the car, but yeah, also because of the lobotomy, and also when was the last time he ate or hydrated or did anything other than drive?
Otto then takes Parnell out of the car and just puts him on a bench on the
Yeah,
side of the street. Okay.
just dumps his body on the bench casually.
Yeah, we've just disposed of dead bodies in the side of streets of LA.
Come back later and just like
So
burn him, just light
yeah,
his ass on
yeah.
fire.
And Jimmy Buffett makes an
Yeah.
appearance in the background taking
Yep.
photos of the body that's on fire.
Yep.
It's just crazy. Bud is fired and he later breaks back into, well, we don't know it's him breaking back into helping hands and steal the Malibu. We just see a shot of someone breaking the lock to get in there.
Right.
And He's in a different vehicle and he picks up Otto, which leads to a convenience store shootout.
Mhm.
Then we get more gunfire and crazy sequences. Like the movie's starting to feel like an action film. Did you feel that shift as we're kind of hurtling towards the end here? Did you feel that shift of almost felt like an action film?
Yeah, well, I don't know about not an all-out action film. I felt it did feel like the pace picks up and there's more action elements. But I never felt like it truly leaned into being an action film. But yeah, I do like that the quickening of the pace there and how it all kind of crescendos into this climax.
I was able to follow pretty easily. And then they jump around so much in different locations that
Hmm.
I had to really pause and make sure I had at least the sequence right of the order of events. I don't want to mess up anything in this movie. I think this has a cult following. I don't want to upset anybody. Bud is wounded in this shootout. The security guard, who was originally we saw from the supermarket, he dies.
Hmm.
Convenience store worker, he dies. Duke is killed, and we get another very famous line. He says, "You're a white suburban punk like me."
Hmm.
What's he say? He says,
He goes,
"It
but
doesn't.
it still hurts or
It
something.
still hurts." Yeah, it still hurts.
It's
Um,
amazing.
and there's another action sequence at Helping Hands where it's killing me. I can't remember the female character's name that works there. Otto is
Marla,
taken by this
Marlene.
Marlene. Marlene. She's there. She's kind of playing both sides. She's with the Rodriguez brothers, and she's also working with Helping Hands. And
Yeah,
Otto is taken by the CIA, and then he's rescued by her and the Rodriguez
and the
brothers
Rodriguez brothers.
from the CIA torturing, and there's more gunfire. They go to hospital to find Bud, and we get one of your favorite lines with the poor lady on the
He
crutches.
goes,
She goes to take the
elevators
elevator.
down, take the stairs.
Out of order.
Out of
Take the
order.
stairs. There's more gunfire, and then the CIA seems to think that Otto knows where the Malibu is, which makes sense because he did take it. But Bud has it.
Hmm.
Bud has the Malibu, and he's at Helping Hands. And the pacing really really picked up here. Is this something that you feel in production when you're recording these sequences, that you can feel a change in how things are moving, or you can't really tell? It's all happening in the edit.
I think with that, it's more happening in the edit. You'll feel the pace pick up, but like from a real world, like we're way behind schedule kind of deal. But not it's not like you don't feel the pace of the script so much as the pace of the schedule.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So everyone is now converged on Helping Hands. We have all our characters except for almost everyone we've met, except for like Otto's parents and anyone that has since perished at this point.
Yeah, I think the Rodriguez brothers and Marlene are gone at this point.
Yeah. We have even the televangelist shows back up, and the
Yeah.
Bible Bible catches on fire. Everyone is on Helping Hands, and Bud is sitting in this glowing green Malibu, which looks very low tech.
That's just practical effects. They painted the entire car with like a reflective, like, whatever you would paint on like a high vis. Like, if you're wearing like a high vis vest and it has the
Yeah,
strips of reflective material, they basically painted the entire car like that and just shined uh, a lot of lights at it. That's how they did the lightsaber effects in the early Star Wars too. They just had reflective material on a stick for the lightsabers,
I think
shining a
more
bunch of
should go
light on it.
back to that. I know Nolan does a lot with practical, does almost everything practical.
Hmm.
The CIA arrives and Budge gets out of the car, starts yelling at the helicopter, and they shoot him. I presume he
Hmm.
dies. I mean, he has gunshot
He was
wounds
still
all over his body.
Yeah, I mean, he was still writhing around when the car takes off. He has another great quote there. He goes, "I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees."
Yeah, it's another good one. I think I was already at the point where I stopped writing them down. But if I
Yeah,
was still writing them down, that would have been
it was
added.
amazing.
And no one can get to the vehicle. People are approaching the vehicle, and there's almost like lightning or something. There's electric stuff coming out, zapping them.
Yeah, like a protective aura.
Yeah. But Miller is able to puncture that aura
Yeah.
because he walks slowly right into the vehicle and gets in the driver's seat. And is it Otto that yells to him and says, "You can't even drive"?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Miller gives him the "come
He's
here"
like,
signal.
"They come hither."
And then my favorite line of the movie, when Layla says, "What about our relationship?" He says, "What?" He says, "What about our relationship?" And he says, "Fuck that."
He just laughs. Fuck that.
Fuck that. And then he gets in the car,
Mm-hmm.
and the movie ends with the car lifting off the ground, ascending into the air, and zipping through LA.
Probably also zipping through time and space.
Alex Cox does say that this is a time machine, and
Mm-hmm.
Bob, I said, oh my gosh, I wrote Bob in my notes. Bob is his character's name in Batman. I wrote Bob. Bob from Batman was right the whole time. Does knowing this help clarify the ending to you at all? Or did you already answer this question by saying, Ron, relax, you don't need answers, just enjoy the vibes?
Basically that, yeah. Yeah, I don't think the ending really clarifies anything. Uh, it does lean into what Miller was talking about with the lattice of coincidence. Um, but again, I don't think this is a movie that was ever seeking a clear ending or a satisfactory ending. But yeah, I think once again just lends to the vibe of the entire film, and then the credits roll in reverse. But that was just another
Of
thing where
course, we have to do
it's
something
like,
different.
yeah, it just leans into that punk vibe. Like everything is counterculture, and we're gonna roll our credits in the opposite direction.
So as we close every episode, the guest gets the chance to give their answer to why this film. So why Repo Man? Why does it deserve its place in the Criterion Collection?
I think I think it would help to read the Criterion mission statement. The Criterion Collection is dedicated to gathering the greatest films from around the world and publishing them in editions of the highest technical quality with supplemental features that enhance the appreciation of the art of the film. So, I think why this film is in the Criterion Collection, there's nothing like it. It's such a unique one of one film, and despite how fragmented it is, and you keep searching for the meaning in the specifics, but the whole picture, the whole thing is just such a vibe, such a it's charming, it's hypnotic, and it's a legit cult classic. So why this film is because it's fucking awesome. I would chalk it up to the lattice of coincidence of why this film, the lattice of coincidence.
You know, I decided to do this podcast and then we met each other and look at us now.
Have a look at
Lattice
us
of
now.
coincidence.
You want to hear another good lattice of coincidence? The first AD on this movie, Betsy Magruder, I worked with when I was a PA on Hail Caesar. So she did this movie and then later became the Coen brothers' first AD. And then I met her when I did Hail Caesar.
Maybe she'll listen to the episode.
I'm banking on it.
Well, thanks again for coming on and hanging out and talking about Repo Man. Welcome to come back and talk about something else you have in your collection over there anytime.
Thanks for having me, and would love to make a return visit.
Thank you again to James Chestnut for taking the time to speak with me about Repo Man. You can also check out James's new YouTube channel, Another Man's Trash, where he documents cleaning up neighborhoods in LA one block at a time. A link is in the episode description. You can follow the podcast on Instagram for updates, and if you'd like to support the show directly, my Patreon is linked below. Next time, I'll be joined by Jesse Thorne to discuss Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Thanks again for listening. Be sure to follow, share, and keep an eye out for the next episode.